So, what if you could finish like 5 hours of studying in just 1 hour and actually remember more of it?
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
it sounds like a pitch for one of those really shady online courses.
Right.
The ones like Learn to Speak Mandarin in Your Sleep
Yeah.
or Master Quantum Physics over the weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It sounds
Or
completely impossible. But here is the reality we're actually looking at today. Because whether you are a student prepping for finals or, a professional staring down a massive stack of industry reports for a Monday morning meeting, thousands of people are quietly pulling this off right now.
Oh, absolutely. They really are.
And they are slashing their reading time, they're retaining vastly more information, and they're doing it using AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude.
Right. But I think the crucial distinction here is that they aren't doing it by having the AI just, do the work for them.
No, not at all.
Yeah. They're fundamentally changing the mechanics of how the human brain actually processes and stores information.
Which brings us to the source material for today's deep dive. We are unpacking this really fascinating framework called the AI Study Accelerator. And our mission today is to uncover the specific high-speed learning methods detailed in this text.
Because it's not just a shortcut.
Exactly. It's about turning AI into a true study accelerator rather than like just a cheap way to cheat. Because, well, let's set the stakes right out of the gate here. Most people are using AI completely
Oh,
wrong.
entirely wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they use it to copy answers or generate a memo they don't even bother to read, thinking they've somehow outsmarted the system. But by bypassing the friction of learning entirely, they're just inadvertently setting themselves up for a massive fall.
Yeah, I mean, those are just hollow victories. The real winners here, the ones actually seeing that 10x speed increase in comprehension,
Hmm.
they're treating these tools entirely differently.
Hmm.
They use AI to eliminate the administrative busy work of studying so they can focus entirely on, synthesis and understanding.
Hmm. Okay, let's unpack this because um, before you can memorize anything or apply a concept in the real world, you have to actually understand the dense wall of text sitting right in front of you.
For sure.
Like, imagine you have a 50-page PDF on macroeconomic policy. Traditionally, you're sitting there with a highlighter, rereading the same paragraph 5 times, fighting through all that academic syntax, and just, well, hoping it eventually clicks.
Which is just cognitive overload. I mean,
Yeah.
your working memory is so entirely consumed by trying to decipher the complex vocabulary that you literally have no mental bandwidth left to grasp the underlying concept.
Exactly. Which is where the first strategy comes in, the explain like I'm 10 trick. And I was thinking about how this shifts the whole learning paradigm.
Yeah.
To me, traditional studying often feels like trying to read a novel in a foreign language, but without a dictionary.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Right. You are just struggling with every single word to glean a tiny bit of context. So using AI to summarize a complex 20-page chapter in 3 minutes is it's like getting the perfect movie trailer before watching a really long, complicated film.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. Because, a movie trailer doesn't replace the experience of watching the film.
No, not at all.
It gives you the narrative scaffolding. It tells you who the protagonist is, who the villain is, what the stakes are. So when you sit down to watch the actual 2-hour movie, your brain isn't wasting energy trying to figure out what's going on in the opening scene.
Right. You already know the setup.
Exactly. You have a framework to attach the details to.
But okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
If I'm preparing for a high-level college exam or like a really important board meeting, and I ask an AI to explain collateralized debt obligations to me like I'm a 10-year-old, aren't I losing all the crucial nuance? I mean, a 10-year-old's understanding of finance isn't going to hold up under serious questioning.
Well, if you stopped at that initial prompt, you would be absolutely right.
Okay.
The 10-year-old explanation is just the entry point. It's the wedge you use to break that initial wall of confusion. But the framework requires you to immediately go deeper.
Right.
So once you understand the basic mechanics, the next prompt you give the AI is, now explain this concept using a real-world scenario.
Ah, okay. So you rebuild the complexity, but on a foundation you actually comprehend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because our brains are biologically wired for narrative and concrete examples,
Right.
not abstract academic jargon. So sticking with your finance example, the AI might first explain a collateralized debt obligation as trading bundles of Pokemon cards, where some are shiny and some are damaged.
Which totally makes sense.
Right, it breaks the confusion. But then you ask for the real-world scenario, and it explains how those bundles apply to the 2008 housing market. You layer the learning. You completely bypass the frustration phase and turn boring, dense theory into something the brain can instantly visualize.
And that pairs perfectly with the concept of instant smart summaries. You literally paste your study material or your corporate report into the AI and command it to extract only the core arguments. It basically acts like a personal filter.
Which is vital when you consider the sheer volume of information we're expected to process today. I mean, filtering out the noise reduces cognitive load, allowing your brain to focus its energy purely on the load-bearing ideas.
Yeah, so getting the gist is great, but having a simplified summary is still ultimately a passive activity.
It is.
You're just staring at bullet points. And to learn dramatically faster, you have to move from passive reading to active interaction.
And what's fascinating here is the shift in the power dynamic of learning. We're moving into a two-way learning system.
Right.
Think about the traditional bottleneck. Like if you were studying at midnight and hit a wall, you were stuck. You had to wait hours or even days to ask a teacher or a colleague to clear up your confusion.
And let's be honest, half the time you wouldn't even ask the question anyway, because you didn't want to look foolish in front of a giant lecture hall or, in front of your boss.
Oh, totally. The fear of judgment is a massive barrier to learning.
Mm.
But now, we have access to a doubt-solving machine that provides instant zero-judgment answers.
It's huge.
Yeah, you can ask the AI, explain this to me again, or give me a simpler example, or, crucially, why is the conclusion I just drew incorrect? And it will patiently guide you.
It's like having a personal 24/7 gym spotter for your brain.
I like that.
Like, if you are struggling with a heavy weight at the gym, a good spotter doesn't lift the weight for you. That would defeat the whole purpose of the workout.
Exactly.
But they guide the bar path. They make sure you don't get crushed. And they help you push through the sticking point. This AI spotter never sighs, it never rolls its eyes, and it never gets annoyed when you ask it to explain the exact same concept for the 5th time in a row.
Because the machine just doesn't care. It completely removes the emotional friction from being confused.
Yeah.
But the spotter analogy really shines when we look at the next phase, the teach me then test me strategy.
Yeah.
This is where the spotter actually starts adding weight to the bar.
Oh, interesting.
Top learners don't just ask for explanations. Once the AI explains a topic, they command it. They say, now ask me questions and test me on what I just read.
Which totally flips the script. You are commanding the tool to become the examiner.
Yeah, and this targets a massive cognitive trap called the illusion of competence.
The illusion of competence.
Right. When you just passively read a textbook or a brief, you suffer from this illusion. You recognize the words on the page, so your brain tricks you into thinking you actually know the material.
Wow. Okay, yeah. It's like riding in the passenger seat of a car.
Oh, that's a good one.
You take the same route to a friend's house 5 times. And you think you know exactly how to get there because you recognize all the landmarks, right? Like,
Yeah.
ooh, there's the coffee shop, there's that weird-looking tree.
Yeah.
But the moment you are forced to drive the car yourself, you realize you have absolutely no idea when to actually make the turns.
That is the perfect way to describe it. Passive reading is riding in the passenger seat. Active recall, which is forcing your brain to generate an answer from scratch without looking at the source material that's driving the car.
That makes so much sense.
When the AI asks you a targeted question and you have to synthesize the answer, you create cognitive friction. That friction, that mental sweat, is literally the feeling of new neural pathways being built.
Yeah.
It forces you to realize you don't actually know the route.
Okay, so you have ingested the material using the 10-year-old trick,
No.
and you have interacted with it using the test me strategy to build those neural pathways. You understand the concept.
Right.
Now, how do you optimize your time for the actual high-stakes environment? Here's where it gets really interesting, because we are getting into some of the most debated strategies in the source material, starting with the 80-20 study hack.
Ah, yes. So here we're talking about the Pareto principle applied to knowledge acquisition.
Okay.
The principle states that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. High performers do not try to memorize every single word in a curriculum or a really dense report.
That would take forever.
Exactly. They use the AI to identify the load-bearing pillars of the subject. They ask, what are the most important 20% of concepts in this field that will yield 80% of the understanding?
Because whether it's a textbook or a corporate deep dive, there is so much filler. Historical context, tangential case studies, super long-winded introductions.
Oh, tons of it. By asking the AI to map out the core framework first, you focus your energy on the material that actually drives results. You basically master the trunk of the tree before you start worrying about the individual leaves.
That sounds incredibly efficient. But then we hit the strategy of AI-created practice tests. And the framework notes that this method is actually banned in some academic settings.
Yes, it is.
Like, people are taking that core 20% of material, feeding it into the AI and saying, create a test based on this specific data, give me 20 multiple choice questions with detailed answer keys, and simulate the difficulty of a real exam.
Right.
Wait, schools are actually banning students from generating multiple choice questions to practice with. They call it an unfair advantage. How is making your own practice test cheating? I mean, I am genuinely baffled by that logic.
Yeah, it is a major controversial flashpoint right now.
Hmm.
Some institutions discourage or outright ban this because they feel it gives individuals who know how to prompt these tools an unfair advantage over traditional brute force study methods.
But that's just using a better tool.
Well, the fear is that the AI might perfectly predict the exam questions, or that the student isn't, quote-unquote, putting in the hard work to hunt down their own flashcards and study materials.
That just feels like penalizing a marathon runner for wearing modern running shoes instead of running barefoot.
That's exactly it.
If the goal is to learn the material, why penalize the most efficient method of testing that learning?
And the underlying philosophy of the text here is that it is absolutely not cheating. It is smart, deliberate practice. I mean, think about what a practice test actually does.
Right.
By asking the AI to simulate real exam pressure and difficulty, you instantly expose your blind spots. You aren't finding out that you don't understand the material on test day when the stakes are highest. You're finding out 3 days earlier in the low-stakes environment of your living room.
Which goes right back to the illusion of competence. You are forcing the active recall.
Exactly. You are practicing the exact cognitive skill you will be graded on retrieving information under pressure.
But testing your knowledge is just one side of the coin. Eventually, you have to produce output, you have to write the essay, draft the proposal, create the presentation.
Yep.
And this is where the line between acceleration and cheating gets really, really blurry. We are talking about creation versus copying.
And this is a critical pivot. We see people using AI to write entire assignments in half the time. They use it to generate outlines, improve their sentence structure, organize the flow of their arguments. They use it to skip that agonizing process of just staring at a blank page.
But hold on, let me push back here.
Go ahead.
If I am using an AI to generate my project outlines, and I'm having it polish all my syntax, and I'm letting it structure the logical flow of my entire argument, aren't I basically just outsourcing my brain? Where is the line between accelerating my workflow and just letting a robot do my homework?
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to talk about a concept called cognitive offloading.
Cognitive offloading.
Right, the framework makes a definitive distinction here. High performers do not copy. When you cheat, the AI's output is your final product. You generate it, you paste it, you submit it. That is outsourcing your brain.
Yeah, that's just pure laziness.
But when you accelerate, the AI's output is simply your rough draft.
Oh, I see. So you are completely shifting your role in the process.
You are shifting your cognitive load from administration to synthesis. Instead of spending 2 hours staring at a blinking cursor, paralyzed by trying to think of the perfect thesis statement, you command the AI to generate 3 different options.
Right.
Then you spend your mental energy evaluating, critiquing, and refining those options. You are acting as the editor-in-chief rather than the junior copywriter.
Wow. Okay. You're still doing the thinking, but you're doing a higher level of thinking. You aren't mixing the paint, you are directing where the paint goes on the canvas.
And editing requires a deep understanding of the subject matter. If you don't know the material, you won't know if the AI's outline is factually incorrect or logically flawed or just completely generic.
That's so true.
The editor-in-chief model demands that you apply critical thought to the machine's output.
So what does this all mean? We look at this massive shift in how humans interact with information. Why can 2 people have access to the exact same AI tool, type in the exact same prompts, yet one person fails miserably and the other thrives? Like, what is the ultimate danger of treating this technology like a magic wand?
The hardest hitting truth in all of this is that AI is a multiplier. It is not magic.
A multiplier.
Yeah, it's a mathematical concept. If your own effort, your own critical thought, and your own domain knowledge is a 0, and you multiply that 0 by the most powerful advanced AI in the world, 0 times a million is still 0.
Oh, wow.
You just get an empty, generic, hallucinated result.
Because if you use it to replace your thinking, you are basically letting your mental muscles atrophy.
Precisely.
You might survive today's deadline or pass tomorrow's quiz by copying an output, but you are completely hollowing out your own competence.
But if you use AI to enhance your thinking. If you bring your own curiosity, your own critical editing skills, and your own desire to deeply understand the mechanics of a subject,
Hmm.
then that multiplier effect takes over. You become unstoppable.
We are experiencing a fundamental shift in how we approach knowledge. I mean, for generations, we lived in an era of information scarcity.
Hmm.
The hardest part of studying or researching was just finding the facts. You had to physically go to a library, dig through an encyclopedia, track down the data. Now we live in an era of absolute information abundance. The facts are literally everywhere.
Everywhere.
The goal is no longer finding the information. The goal is filtering it, interacting with it, and applying it as rapidly as possible.
And this raises an important question about adaptability. We're entering an environment where speed of comprehension is a massive competitive advantage. Technology heavily rewards those who can adapt their workflows. AI makes an average passive learner slightly faster at completing tasks, but it makes a strategic, active learner completely unstoppable. It reframes the technology from being a replacement for human effort to being a true collaborative partner in the cognitive process.
Which brings us entirely back to you listening right now. The ultimate question you have to ask yourself when you open one of these tools is a matter of intent.
Yeah.
Are you using AI to actually learn, to build your mental models, and to offload the busy work so you can think deeper? Or are you just using it to survive your deadlines and avoid the friction of thinking altogether? Like, are you building your brain, or are you just trying to get to 5 p.m. on a Friday?
It is a question of long-term survival in a knowledge economy. The tools will only get smarter. The differentiator will be the human directing them.
It's the ultimate test of discipline. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to ponder.
Okay.
Something that builds on everything we've talked about today regarding cognitive friction and active recall. If AI eventually becomes the perfect, frictionless tutor, infinitely patient, perfectly tailored to your exact learning style, and capable of instantly dissolving any confusion before you even feel frustrated, what happens to the uniquely human skill of struggling through a difficult concept?
That's a deep question.
Right. When learning becomes perfectly smooth and entirely painless, do we risk losing the mental grit, the resilience, and the creative problem-solving skills that only come from figuring things out the hard way? It's definitely something to think about the next time you ask a machine to explain the world to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.